This is the Dive Into Discovery podcast, where curiosity meets insight, and every conversation uncovers a new layer of understanding.
All right, let's dive in. Today we're heading to the island of Flores to explore. One of the most intriguing discoveries, I think, in recent paleoanthropology, Homo floresiensis.
The Hobbits.
The Hobbits.
Yeah.
You sent over some really fascinating research on these little hominins.
Yeah.
And I think this is going to be a really, really captivating deep dive.
I think so, too.
So what is it about Homo floresiensis that kind of shakes up our understanding of human evolution?
I think the biggest thing is just how they challenge our understanding of, what it means to be human. Because here we have a species that was alive as recently as 50,000 years ago.
Wow.
Sharing the planet with our own ancestors.
Right.
And yet they had these remarkably primitive characteristics.
Yeah, it makes you wonder, are we talking about a separate species here? Or is this some form of modern human with a growth disorder?
A huge debate.
It's a huge debate, and that's exactly what we're going to try to unravel today.
Exactly.
Now, you've been looking very closely at the initial discovery back in 2003 at Liangbua Cave.
Liangbua, yeah.
And what an incredible find that was. Not just one skeleton, but remains from at least 9 individuals.
It was really a pivotal moment in paleoanthropology.
Wow.
To find so many individuals in one location, it gave us such a richer understanding of their lives.
And what a unique picture they paint. Standing only about 3.5 feet tall.
Tiny.
I mean, that's shorter than the average first grader.
Yeah.
And with brains about the size of a chimpanzee's, it's like something straight out of, Tolkien or something.
It really is. It captures the imagination, and their anatomy is so fascinating, too.
Oh, tell me about that.
Large feet, primitive wrists, and that jawbone, no chin, which is so distinctive.
Yeah.
All features pointing towards a much earlier lineage. It's almost as though evolution took this sort of side road on this island.
An unexpected detour.
Exactly.
Now, one of the things I was reading about that you sent over was this idea of island dwarfism.
Yeah.
And it was so interesting to think that being small could actually be an advantage in a resource-limited environment.
It's counterintuitive, isn't it?
It is.
But yeah, if you think about it, imagine a population of large mammals, even early hominins, arriving on Flores. Resources are scarce, not a lot of food to go around.
Right.
So over generations, individuals with smaller body sizes who need less to survive are going to be more likely to reproduce.
Right.
And that selective pressure playing out over millennia can lead to the significant reduction in body size for the entire population.
Oh, wow.
We see it on islands all over the world.
Hooey.
Oh, yeah. Dwarf elephants, even some really fascinating examples of dwarf hippos.
Huh.
So it's possible that's what's happening with Homo floresiensis.
So it's not just being small, it's about being efficient with the resources that you have.
Exactly. Making the most of what's available.
Now, here's what really blew my mind. These hobbits weren't just surviving, they were thriving. They were taking down some pretty impressive prey.
You're talking about the stegodon, right?
Stegodon.
Dwarf elephant.
Dwarf elephant.
Yeah, that evidence was really groundbreaking.
It really was.
We found stone tools alongside the Hobbit remains.
Yeah.
Relatively simple flake tools for cutting, scraping.
Right.
But the fact they were used to hunt stegodon, well, that tells us a lot more.
Yeah, these weren't just, passive little creatures hiding in caves.
No, not at all.
They were taking down animals many times their size.
Exactly. It speaks to a level of intelligence.
Right, and social organization.
Social structure, absolutely.
To be able to do that.
It suggests they must have developed some complex hunting strategies.
Like what? What kind of things are we thinking?
Well, they probably hunted in groups.
Okay.
Using coordinated tactics to bring down those massive stegodon.
Looking together.
Absolutely. And don't forget, they were also sharing the island with giant rats and Komodo dragons.
Oh my gosh.
It was a very challenging environment.
Yeah, a lot of predators.
But they adapted and flourished.
Wow.
It's really quite impressive.
Well, speaking of brains, one of the studies you sent over had this detail about CT scans of the Hobbit brain cases.
Yes.
And they revealed something really unexpected about the structure, didn't they?
It was surprising, really, because despite the small size, the scans showed an enlarged frontal cortex.
Interesting.
With complex features very similar to modern human brains.
So are we saying that these hobbits, with brains the size of a chimpanzee's, were capable of thinking like us?
It raises that question, doesn't it?
It does.
I mean, the frontal cortex is associated with higher cognitive functions.
Right.
Planning, decision-making, abstract thought, things like that.
Wow.
So it seems that Homo floresiensis might have possessed cognitive abilities far beyond what we initially assumed.
And to think all of this was happening while our own ancestors were, spreading across the globe.
It's mind-boggling.
It's mind-boggling to imagine these two very distinct human species
Coexisting
on this remote island.
It really makes you wonder, how did Homo floresiensis and Homo sapiens interact during that period of overlap? Did they trade, compete? Maybe they avoided each other completely.
Mystery.
The possibilities are fascinating.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, the fossil record only gives us limited clues.
Yeah, but we have our imaginations.
That's right. And the research continues.
It does. I mean, it really does make you wonder how those interactions might have played out.
It does.
But, as we go deeper into the story of the Hobbits, we come to another mystery, their extinction.
Right around 50,000 years ago.
They just vanished from the fossil record.
Poof.
Gone. What happened to these remarkable creatures?
It's a big question.
Yeah.
And there are a few leading theories that researchers are kind of exploring.
Okay, I'm ready to put on my detective hat.
Right.
What are the top contenders? What happened to the Hobbits?
Well, one of the prime suspects is Mother Nature herself.
Okay.
In the form of a massive volcanic eruption.
Oh.
Flores is a volcanically active island. And around the time that Homo floresiensis disappears from the fossil record,
Right.
there's evidence of a really significant eruption.
So we're not talking about, a small event here.
No, we're talking cataclysmic.
Yeah, what kind of impact would something like that have had on the Hobbits?
We'll just picture it. The sky darkens, ash and debris are launched into the atmosphere.
Wow.
The island is shrouded in darkness.
Oh, wow.
This would have had a devastating impact on the ecosystem.
Yeah.
Food chains would have been disrupted.
Right.
Water sources contaminated. The air itself could have become unbreathable.
Wow.
It's like something out of a disaster movie.
It is. For a species like Homo floresiensis, who are already adapted to this very specific niche environment.
Right, a very delicate balance.
Yeah.
Something like that could have been the tipping point.
Yeah, just push them over the edge.
Exactly. Their survival really depended on that balance.
Right.
So a sudden dramatic change, like a volcanic eruption, could have just pushed them beyond recovery.
So volcanic eruptions are definitely a strong contender.
Definitely.
But there's another possibility, and this one hits a little closer to home.
Yeah. The arrival of Homo sapiens.
Oh, our own species.
Your own species.
So we're talking about the possibility that our ancestors might have played a role in the extinction of another human species.
It's a difficult thought.
It is.
But around the same time that Homo floresiensis vanishes, modern humans were moving throughout Southeast Asia.
Right. We were on the move.
Reaching new islands, expanding their territories.
Right.
And they would brought with them a whole new dynamic.
So our arrival spelled trouble for the Hobbits.
It's possible.
How so? Competition for resources.
It's one possibility.
Okay.
They may have relied on similar food sources,
Okay.
hunted the same prey, gathered the same plants, even sought shelter in the same caves.
Wow.
And Homo sapiens, with their larger brains and more advanced tools,
Right.
they may have just outcompeted the hobbits for those essential resources.
It's like, the survival of the fittest, but
Yeah.
with a tragic end.
Yeah, a bit of a tragic twist.
Yeah. And, was there conflict?
It's possible.
Yeah.
But the fossil record doesn't really give us any direct evidence of warfare or violence.
Yeah.
But even without direct conflict, the mere presence of Homo sapiens could have disrupted that delicate balance that the hobbits relied on,
Yeah.
making it harder for them to survive.
It's a sobering thought that our own ancestors might have played a role in the extinction of another human species.
It really is.
I mean, it speaks to the complex and interconnected nature of, these events.
And it's rarely just a single factor that leads to extinction.
Right.
It's usually this kind of combination of pressures,
Right.
environmental changes, competition, and perhaps even factors that we haven't even considered yet.
So it's like this perfect storm of events.
Exactly.
Maybe a volcanic eruption weakened their population,
Right, it made them more vulnerable.
making them more vulnerable to the competition.
And then Homo sapiens arrive on the scene.
Wow, what a story.
It's a tragic one, but it's also a reminder of the fragility of life.
It is.
Even for a species as unique and adaptable as the hobbits.
But their story, even in extinction, It continues to inspire, doesn't it?
It does.
I mean, it does.
They survived for so long on that remote island, evolving these unique adaptations.
Yeah.
It really speaks volumes about the incredible diversity of life.
Yeah, and the research doesn't end with their disappearance, does it?
No, not at all. There's actually ongoing excavations happening on Flores and nearby islands.
Oh, wow.
Researchers are searching for more fossils, more artifacts that could give us some clues about their lives, their behavior, and ultimately their fate.
It's like a never-ending detective story.
It really is.
What are some of the key questions that researchers are trying to answer?
One of the biggest mysteries is how Homo floresiensis' ancestors even got to Flores in the first place.
Right.
Because their ancestors must have made that journey somehow.
Right.
And understanding when and how that happened could change our whole understanding of their evolution.
Imagine the seafaring capabilities that would have required.
I know, right? It's mind-blowing.
Are there any recent breakthroughs or discoveries that are kind of shedding light on this mystery?
Well, one of the most exciting things is the potential to extract ancient DNA.
From the remains?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
If we can recover viable DNA, it could really answer the question of their relationship to other human species.
Including us?
Including us. Imagine having that concrete genetic evidence.
Wow, that would be a game changer.
A total game changer.
Yeah.
And alongside DNA analysis, we have these increasingly sophisticated dating methods.
Oh, right.
Analyzing the geological layers where fossils are found so we can really pinpoint when they lived.
Refine the timeline.
Exactly.
It feels like we're getting closer and closer to understanding these enigmatic creatures.
We are, bit by bit.
But, you know, before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I have to go back to the Ibu Gogo legend.
I was wondering if you would.
It's just too intriguing to leave unexplored.
I agree.
These mythical creatures of Flores.
Yeah.
You know, small, hairy beings.
Sound familiar?
They do sound a lot like our hobbits.
Yeah, it's a story that really blurs the lines between folklore and scientific evidence.
Right. It makes you wonder, you know, could there be a kernel of truth hidden within these legends?
Well, most scientists are hesitant to draw a direct line between the Ibu Gogo and Homo floresiensis.
Right.
But these stories have persisted for so long.
I know.
Passed down through generations.
I find that fascinating.
It suggests a connection to the past.
Right.
A cultural memory.
Right.
Perhaps even like a distorted echo of encounters with these real-life hobbits.
It's amazing to think that oral traditions can sometimes preserve knowledge and memories that are lost to the written record.
It really is.
And in the case of the Ibu Gogo, these stories add this whole other layer of mystery and intrigue to the already fascinating story of Homo floresiensis.
Absolutely.
You know, it is amazing to think that these stories could be a window into a past that we're only just beginning to understand.
It really is.
But as we kind of wrap up our deep dive into, you know, Homo floresiensis, I'm curious about the bigger picture.
Okay.
What does their discovery tell us about human evolution as a whole?
Well, I think it really challenges that sort of neat linear progression that we used to imagine.
Right.
You know, the idea that each species evolved in a straight line, getting, you know, bigger brains, more complex tools along the way.
Right, like a ladder almost.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's not like that.
No, it's not like that at all.
It's much more complicated.
It's much more like a branching tree with all sorts of twists and turns.
Dead ends.
Dead ends, unexpected adaptations.
And the fact that they were alive so recently.
I know.
Sharing the planet with modern humans.
50,000 years ago.
It's incredible.
It really highlights the diversity of our hominin lineage.
Yeah.
It suggests there are many different ways of being human.
Right, and each adapted to their own particular environment.
Exactly. Finely tuned to their specific challenges.
It makes you wonder what else is out there.
Oh, I know.
Hidden in the fossil record, just waiting to be discovered.
Waiting to rewrite the textbooks.
What amazing adaptations might we find?
I can't wait to find out.
Yeah.
Homo floresiensis has really opened up our minds to these new ways of thinking about human evolution.
Right.
You know, it's prompting researchers to reconsider all these old assumptions.
Yeah.
And explore new avenues of research.
And with all the advancements in technology now.
Oh, absolutely.
The DNA analysis, the dating techniques.
It's a really exciting time to be in the field.
It feels like we're on the verge of some really incredible breakthroughs.
We are. We really are.
But with all this exploration and discovery, do you think it's important to kind of consider the ethical side of all this?
Oh, for sure.
Especially with a species as unique as Homo floresiensis.
Absolutely. We have to approach this work with sensitivity and respect.
Right.
I mean, these remains represent real individuals.
Right. They lived and breathed.
Who lived and breathed, yeah.
And their descendants
Might still be around.
may still have deep cultural and spiritual connections to them.
It's something we can't forget.
It's about acknowledging the human story behind the scientific discovery.
Exactly.
You need to make sure that the research is being done ethically, collaboratively.
Yes.
With indigenous communities.
With respect for their cultural heritage?
It's a partnership.
Absolutely.
Scientists, local communities, cultural institutions.
All working together
Yeah.
to understand our shared human past.
It's like weaving together these threads of science and culture and history
Yeah.
to create this richer, more meaningful understanding of our origins.
Beautifully said.
And I think Homo floresiensis, with its blend of scientific evidence and that captivating folklore, really embodies this idea.
It really does.
So we've come to the end of our deep dive into the world of Homo floresiensis.
A fascinating journey.
It has been.
Yeah.
Filled with wonder and discovery, and I think a deeper appreciation for how complex our human heritage really is.
It really is a story that just keeps unfolding.
It does.
And as we wrap up, I'd like to leave you with one final thought.
Okay.
If a species as unexpected and unique as Homo floresiensis could exist,
Right.
what other wonders might be out there hidden within that vast expanse of time?
Oh.
What other secrets are waiting to be unearthed
Right.
and reshape our understanding of the past?
It's a great question to ponder.
Isn't it?
It is a great question to ponder.
And it reminds us that the story of human evolution is far from finished.
It's not over.
There's still so much to discover.
So much to learn.
So keep those minds curious.
Stay engaged with the research.
And never lose your sense of wonder.
Until next time,
Keep exploring.
keep exploring.
What did you think of this week's episode? We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to join us next time as we dive even deeper. And as always, stay curious, because you never know what discoveries are just around the corner.